Well, hello there, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Tomb Raider 4, the last revelation for PS1, of course, with your host, the amicable Jamie Clough Gaming, of course, and this is part 41, I do believe. Let's see whether... Yeah, that is the case. Flipping out, guys, we're very near the finish now. I'll play the video. And part 41 sees us reach a level called Inside Menkaure's Pyramid. That chap we rescued is Menkaure. The previous level was Menkaure's Pyramid, and now we're inside his pyramid. This pyramid actually is overseen by him, which is pretty cool. It's a huge pyramid. And him and the soldiers you will encounter in these levels that are not Von Kreuzmen. Von Kreuzmen are the ninjas. The non-ninja soldiers are friendly. They're Menkaure's men, and that'll be why they're friendly. Despite the fact that in Cairo, the men that look like they should be friendly because they look like the men you talk to, they weren't friendly. These men are, but as is the case in classic Tomb Raider, if you try and shoot a friendly enemy, they will turn on you. So do be warned of that. I've already sort of said this, but yeah. However, you will encounter mummies here. We haven't seen mummies for ages and ages and ages and ages and ages. Probably since the burial chamber is actually one of the very early levels. And Menkaure's Pyramid has the same sound effects as Tomb Set. So, as to a few tombs and pyramids. Yeah. These are the underground, really atmospheric sound effects. And they are absolutely fantastic in this game. The best there have been, so I can say that with enthusiasm and genuine feeling, you know. Oh, God. I don't know why I'm laughing, I'll make myself laugh with some of the things I say. It's so bizarre sounding, but yeah, I'm genuinely enthusiastic about the atmospheric soundtracks in Tomb Raider 4. They're absolutely brilliant, most of them. Even if I'm not sure one of the Cairo ones, I will admit they do reflect the atmosphere and the darkness around. Thankfully in Giza, on the PS1 version, you will notice it's a lot brighter generally than Cairo. It's more like the brightness of, say, Alexandria or Karnak or Valley of the Kings even. So, yeah. And each section of it has its strengths and weaknesses. Giza is generally a large area, open plan, and it's pleasing to the eye. Definitely more so than Cairo is, and it's quite challenging, you know. But I would say most of it is quite straightforward once you know what you're doing. These ropes or rope jumps are a bit tricky. Just like all the others in this game, you've got to be very precise. Probably not as precise as you have to be in the catacombs of Alexandria, but you still have to be a bit precise, unfortunately. And that might be a problem for someone like me who's not really a perfectionist in this regard. You see there, she was right near it and then she fell to her death because she was a centimetre too short or something. It's a bit ridiculous, really. I would much rather there have been more arcadey controls for the ropes, that you should just grab them regardless of what you did, but that would take away from some of the great challenge that this game inevitably provides, having introduced rope swinging for Tomb Raider 4. It wasn't previously a feature in Tomb Raider 3. And yes, that rope in the training levels is just there to show you that there's a new mechanic, rope swinging. It's a lot of people don't like it, but I don't mind it. It's just that when it is too fiddly, I do express exasperation with perhaps how accurate you've got to be, really, because that takes more time than than it should. It just should. The controls just should be a little bit better than they're up. I'll have to admit that. Still, Tomb Raider 4. Even with the little niggles that has, it's still by far, in my estimation, overall the best Tomb Raider game there has ever been. And had the Angel of Darkness fulfilled its potential, I still don't think it would have quite been as good as The Last Revelation. The Last Revelation, to me, is about as close to gaming perfection as Tomb Raider has ever got. Sure, there were one or two levels I'm not too keen on. You can't like them all, but when it does get, when the levels are great, they are great. I don't know, because my favourite level. What is my favourite level? I mean, there's loads of strong levels. Of course, my favourite level of all time will probably still be Antarctica from Tomb Raider 3, because that level is absolutely awesome. But to be honest, the best levels from this game are every bit as good, if not better, in terms of gameplay. So I love the Tomb of Seth, for instance. I love the Buried Chambers as well. The Buried Chambers, I guess if they were made, Tomb Raider 4, the Buried Chambers and the Tomb of Seth would be one level, because the Tomb of Seth is quite short and the Buried Chambers is longer. So, and the Buried Chambers are the Buried Chambers of the Tomb of Seth. So it's the same level, really. It's just split off by a loading screen. And obviously there's different secrets and stuff like that. But yeah, I love the Buried Chambers. The Tomb of Seth in particular. It's really challenging and really a large level. One of the largest in terms of mass. And I really love the Tomb of Semiket as well. Tomb of Semiket is could arguably be one of my favourite levels. Because of the giant game of Senate, the atmosphere, the graphics, the attention to detail, the challenge. It's absolutely brilliant, Tomb of Semiket. Absolutely brilliant. Guardian of Semiket 2, with all its traps. Not quite as good as the Tomb of Semiket, but having you get the bullet to bash the eyes, that's very unique to Tomb Raider, that, I believe. So they might have got it from somewhere else, you know. I've heard Tomb Raider has ripped off Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. It may have done, you know. But I've never played that game myself. I'm not really a hardcore gamer, because most games I haven't actually ever played, you know, but I've certainly played most of the Tomb Raider games, and it's one of the only series that I've been very faithful to. Gran Turismo is another, but and to some extent Formula 1 as well, the official games there, you know. But, yes, it's really racing games, and Tomb Raider and Spyro the Dragon is a series I've been quite faithful to. I lost all interest in the games when after 3, because different developers and they were nowhere near as good. So I'd entered the Dragonfly. I haven't even played that properly, and it didn't look much better than the PS1 games. In fact, it looked worse. So, and having seen reviews on YouTube, it definitely is a lot worse than the first 3 games, yeah. Which I maintain 2 is probably still my favourite for nostalgia. Even if 3 is technically the better game, because you get different characters to play as, and it's more sort of it's bigger as a game as well, more levels and stuff. And when I played the original Spyro, of course I'd already played Spyro 2, and I thought that was a large step in the wrong direction, because it wasn't quite as slick, if you get my meaning. So anyway, this mini boss here, I'll make a joke that this might be Horus that Lara is fighting here, and she actually blows him to bits. But of course, if it was Horus, he'd be immortal, so she couldn't kill him. So it's just a guardian who is guarding these bizarre-looking shaft key things. That was our first shaft key. We need 4 of these, you see. We need a northern, eastern, southern, and a western. We'll get the western one first. They are for the penultimate level, so a good few levels to go before we actually use any of them. Just like the Holy Scriptures in that sense. And like the Holy Scriptures, we have to collect 4 of them. And this room is quite pretty, yes. I like Menkaure's pyramid, it's a good level. And also, you actually come out of the pyramid and go into another pyramid, it's still the same level. I'm not sure how that works, it's probably still part of he probably owns that pyramid as well. He must be quite wealthy, he owns several pyramids or he just guards them. I'm not sure what the situation is with him actually owning the pyramids, but yeah, he has the keys to them and stuff, so that's all needed to open the doors, obviously. And those keys actually, several levels down the line, you're still using his keys, so it's one of the most useful keys. And actually, it works like a real key where you wouldn't just have one use of a key normally, you'd use it several times. For example, if you own a house or a flat, you'll use the key every time you go in and out of it. And Menkaure's keys are sort of like that. You don't use them up after one use, you use them several times. And then you still have them in inventory, so they still have several uses. So they're like a normal key. So that's quite realistic is what I'm trying to get at. And they look quite nice as well. It's got to be said. Yeah, and if I just whispered something there, I can only say that I shouldn't have done. Yeah. Yes. So, yeah, I've got lost stuff again, and yeah, this spike section is probably my least favourite part of the level because it's quite tricky to do. It's too finicky, and then if you fail, you die instantly. So, what I like about Tomb Raider 4 spikes is they're pretty large and gold in the first few levels, and then you've got the silver ones as well, so there's diversity there. Then you get the smaller silver ones for later in the game again. In the last level. And luckily I did save getting the shaft key, so I don't have to do all of that again and fight that miniature boss again. But he was a falcon-headed boss, so ironically the Guardian we just killed there heavily resembles Horus, but he was probably a bad falcon working for Set. And Set is actually Horus's cousin, but Set is bad and Horus is good. So they're mortal enemies, you know. And Set actually makes a return in... I'm sure I just glitched that rope and missed the other one and still survived. You're not supposed to be able to do that, by the way. It wasn't my intention, but if I did it, it's pretty cool. Yeah. But yeah, Horus and Set are cousins, but they are mortal enemies. And Set makes a return in one of the spin-off games. Not the Tomb Raider series, but the Lara Croft spin-off series, which Keely Hawes still voices, so she's still in employment. Vice Crystal Dynamics. Those games aren't even 3D, but they feature Lara Croft as she is in... I think the model is based on the Underworld model. It's as close as classic Lara. It still exists, I guess, but it doesn't really resemble classic Lara because it doesn't have a plait. She just has a ponytail. So, yeah, Set makes a return in one of those games, and you have to stop him once again, but it's quite different. It's completely different to Tomb Raider 4, so it's nowhere near as good, and he's nowhere near as much of a threat either, and he doesn't possess other people or anything like that. And and the game's quite small, so it's like a co-op multiplayer Lara Croft thing, and Temple of Horus or something. It's alright. I've seen it being let's played. It's a highly flawed product from what I've seen as well. There's a few of them actually, Temple of Horus, and I'm struggling to remember any of the other ones, but they're like two-dimensional adventures that are just a pale imitation of what Tomb Raider used to be. Because Tomb Raider was never two-dimensional. Then again, they're not Tomb Raider games, they're Lara Croft games. So they don't have to be like Tomb Raider at all. But they are sort of, in that you do Tomb Raider and puzzle. It is sort of classic gameplay, but I wouldn't probably bother doing them myself, because I'm a bit biased towards 3D games. I don't really do 2D games in general, even though one of my favourite games, Tetris, is in 2D. So, and so is Pac-Man, but Tetris and Pac-Man were designed to be two-dimensional games. The second dimension is, of course, colour, because if they were black and white, they'd be one-dimensional. But those games were specifically designed to be 2D, whereas if you make a 2D version of Tomb Raider, that game was designed to be 3D, so it doesn't really work as 2D platformer very well. Some people absolutely love the spin-off games, obviously, but I think they're interesting, I think they look okay, but I don't think, because they're not full-on 3D adventures, I don't think I'd bother playing them, never mind let's play them. I'll watch them on the internet for a bit of fun, but for a bit of a laugh, especially if it's one of my favourite let's players doing them, I'll watch like most of the stuff they do, but certainly not all of it. Ain't nobody got time for that. Oh god. Right. Yeah. I remember when that meme was really popular. Everyone seems to have forgotten what it is. Anyway, so this pyramid here presumably still belongs to Menkaure. Still part of the same level. So he's got a lot of land. He must be working for the Egyptian government then, or something like that. He's a soldier, so yeah, army. If you join the army, you are working for the government. The army is a division of the government. It's the Ministry of Defence. It is in the UK anyway. It's called the Ministry of Defence. It's the Ministry of the government for defending the country, so from terrorists and stuff. So if it was the 21st century, that would be the case. Terrorists have always been around, though, dating back centuries and centuries. The more prevalent in the last century, though, unfortunately, things have got more dangerous because increasingly we're not fighting enemy armies, we're fighting individuals who don't necessarily represent a whole country, they just represent their own crazed life. So they could come from anywhere and strike at any time, which is pretty scary if you think about it. All they need is knowledge of bombs and that, and they can strike any place which has a numerous population, and they will do. Something that most of us can do nothing about, of course. So, and well, even if you specialise in fighting, there's not much you can do because you never know when they're going to strike. Unless you're fighting a hardened group like the Taliban, which do operate as an army of terrorists, but who used to run Afghanistan before we drove them out of Afghanistan, but they still exist, so to speak, I think. And Islamic State almost completely wiped out now, but you guarantee that, despite the fact that might be the case, someone else will pop up related to Islamic State that believes the same things and present a problem later on. You'll never completely get rid of terrorism because it's like racism, it's like fascism. It's one of those ugly things that'll never die, unfortunately. So certain groups will come and go, but it will always be there. So we'll never have world peace because there'll never be a whole world at peace because there'll always be significant divisions in belief and opinion. And when you've got that, there'll always be conflict, therefore there'll always be wars. So even though the Americans said World War I should be the war to end all wars, and the ironic thing about that is that America has been involved in most of the wars since have involved the United States. They've had more wars than anyone else. But they do make a lot of money from it because you've got industries like build tanks, planes and ships. If there were no wars, they'd be out of business. So people would make billions and billions of pounds of dollars from wars. Yes, that's just the way it is. And it's the same in this country as well, mate. To a lesser extent, maybe. Yes. Oh my god. And this area here is quite tricky. You see the Axis make a return. It's the first time we've seen them since Tomb Raider 1, if I remember rightly. Were they in Tomb Raider 3 in one of the levels? They may have been. No, I don't think so. In Tomb Raider 1 they were quite hard to avoid. In Tomb Raider 4 they are easier to avoid than they are in Tomb Raider 1, to be honest. They make the same sort of thing, but because Lara's more agile in Tomb Raider 4, that might be it. She's a bit slow moving, especially for the PS1 version of Tomb Raider 1. Or indeed the original Sega Saturn version, because that was the other console. That version is graphically inferior to all the other versions, obviously. It's a less powerful system, and also the Sega Saturn was a flop. And ironically, the replacement for the Saturn, the Dreamcast, the 6th generation, also ended up being a flop overall. Though I think the Dreamcast did do a lot better than the Saturn did, it just didn't do well compared to the PS2 and the Xbox. Yeah. That secret there, the only secret of this level, it's a gun secret, and you have to pick up to register. It'll give you more Uzi ammo, which you could desperately use, yeah. So I was complaining about the amount of Uzi ammo compared to Tomb Raider 1 and 2. Of course, the Uzi was the power weapon in those games. Yes, you got too much ammo for it then, but in Tomb Raider 4 you don't get enough, so I could have done at least, 1,000 Uzi rounds in this game. You only get those. You never have more than 500. Even if you don't hardly ever use it. It's a bit frustrating because that gun is still a good gun, even though it's nowhere near as good as it was in Tomb Raider 1. It's nowhere near the best gun. The revolver and the great gun have evolved